Alright guys, here we are with the quick update on the 85 Fiero GT project. Let's take a look at what we're at so far. Okay, here we have the almost completed engine and transmission on the mounted to the subframe. Let me talk a little bit about what we got going on here. This engine was a pretty good piece. I mean, the detailing is really nice. Everything seems to be very similar to what's on the real vehicle, with the exception of a few things. This kit has the exact same thing that most other kits have from Monogram and MPC and the like, in which case they seem to never give you brackets for the alternators and the air conditioning pumps. They kind of just hang out in the midair, and just to me never looks right. So what I did was I created my own brackets here, fabricated some brackets to hold the air conditioning condenser. Air conditioning compressor. And the alternator. I patterned these brackets after the brackets that are on a real car. Coming as close as I could with a little bit of scratch building. Here we have what looks familiar to Fiero owners, that alternator bracket. And came as close as I could to the AC bracket that would be holding the compressor, which I think looks much better than just having them hanging in midair. I also finished off all of the detail painting on the engine. As you can see, the transmission, the exhaust. Here we have the lower and middle intake manifold, the belts, everything is there exactly as it should be on the real car. I've also started drilling the block for the spark plug wires, and I've already drilled out the distributor. The transmission is done in Tamiya. What was that? Oh, that's done in Tamiya bare metal silver, and then with a little bit of titanium gold and bronze, both from Tamiya, added for weathering and to add shadows, and then highlighted with some Tamiya panel line paint to deepen the shadows and bring out some of the details. Looks pretty good once the all the detailing is done. The exhaust is done in a similar fashion. That's in Tamiya titanium silver, and then with a heat distressed coloring to using bronze and Tamiya gold. Just get a little differentiation in the color of the metal, and also bring out the heat discoloration that you would see on the real pipes, as you can see there. So the engine and the subframe are coming along nicely. I really like the way the paint has come out on it. All the detail painting was done by airbrush, while the rest was all just Tamiya rattle can using Tamiya semi-gloss black. The red is the natural red of the plastic after I de-chromed it, and with just a little bit of a future floor polish for a gloss coat on it. That will be topped off with the very iconic Fiero intake plenum. Once I add a bit more wiring and a little bit of the plumbing on this engine. But for now, the drivetrain is mostly complete. We've also started a little bit of work on the interior using Tamiya sand I've got to look up my books and see exactly what the 85 Fiero had as far as the detail work goes. I currently own an 88, and the interior colors were a bit different. The body work is complete, or almost complete, just a little bit of light sanding left. The air intake on the passenger side is now gone, as it should never have been there on the it's not there on the real car, so I'm not putting it on this one. As we saw in the previous videos, everything's open. Bit of detail painting on some of the other parts. Here go the axles, need a little more detailing and then they'll be done. But the engine is something I'm very pleased with the way it's coming out. As you can see, the Tamiya panel line paint and how it's brought out all the details in the alternator and the AC compressor. You can see the pulley with the clutches in it. A lot of these details won't really be visible once the engine's in the car. So I know the question is, why do I bother? Well, because this is a part of the build process where you can be creative and just make it your own. Not to mention that this is what I am calling a now and then build. Whereas I'm building this model with all the skills I have now to have a head-to-head comparison with this one, which is the same car, which I built over, I've got to say, close to 30 years ago, when I was just a newbie to the scale model building hobby. It's not bad, but there are many places where it could use a little bit of an upgrade. You can see the engine here, whereas you can see one of my early attempts at spark plug wiring and a little bit of plumbing there. You can see the exhaust, which is just straight up painted some sort of metallic silver. There's no shading. Let's take a look at the undercarriage. This is pretty much what you see if you build it straight out of the box. Let me just give you a little comparison of the exhaust systems. That is the catalytic converter as I built the car years ago, and this is the catalytic converter now. It's a much more realistic appearance with the cat having the heat distress look of the heat discoloration, and then using the panel line paint to bring out the details. It's brought out, it just brings more life to the model. Now let's take a look at the actual muffler and exhaust, as you can see here. I am a huge fan of detail painting. It is really my favorite thing to do on these cars. And it really, I think, brings them to life. Now we can take a look at the underside of the engine. And here you can see I've eliminated the seam mark across the oil pan. As you can see there. You can see how all of the detail painting on the transmission just brings that entire assembly to life. So let's take a look at I've just started the chassis. As you can see, I've done the fuel tank, which rides in the center of the car, and that is a much more realistic color than what I have done on the previous build. And that was done with an airbrush using, I think it was Tamiya dark sea gray, I think it was. Or as this I painted by, this was by hand, did a little bit of brush painting there. So this will be, this one was done in Boyd Coddington teal green, I think it was. So, well, that pretty much does it. So now you know this is going to be my now and then build. I guess I will see you on the next video when I'll have another update. Hopefully then I'll have the engine mounted to the chassis and quite a bit more detail work done. Alright guys, I will see you on the next one.